Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mr. E Crime Cast. I am Mr. E, joined by Mrs. E, and also joined here by Aunt E. How are you doing today, Aunt E?
I'm good.
Good. I'd like to welcome Olivia back. Joined us last couple of days ago with our discussion on Sebastian Rogers. She's back as a moderator today. And good morning to our Taylor, Southern Grammy. And everyone else. So we have been following, of course, the Sebastian Rogers case. If you are new to our channel, I'd like to welcome anyone that's listening here live or on playback later. We're picking up new subscribers every time we have a discussion here, and we're so thankful to all of you that have found a good home with us here to discuss true crime. If you're a little newer to us, just so you know a little bit about why we're here, our background. We live in the Sumner County community, so we became invested in the Sebastian Rogers case just on a personal human level, and then as that story evolved and became more of what looked more like a potential for foul play, then we became even more concerned and involved in what was going on with that child, and so we were having discussions, decided to start our own channel, and here we are. So just to discuss theories and the case. So the last month of us doing this channel, we have talked about primarily, almost exclusively, the Sebastian Rogers mystery and disappearance, and have kind of broken that case down. We are going to continue to follow that case. So I know most of you that are here with us, that you likely found us because of your interest also in Sebastian Rogers. But as we've been discussing over the last few weeks, we also wanted to talk about some of these other crimes and missing people that have captured our attention. And one of those has been the Caleb Harris story. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now, that we wanted to do a deep dive, get our research, our facts right on the story before we came and presented it. So we were actually talking about that 3 days ago on our last live stream. And just about the time I was sitting down to do some further research on it to make sure we had the timelines right and everything else. Then the big story broke out of Corpus Christi 2 days ago, and we'll talk about that also and how it relates and how that changes everything in what we know about the case. So that's kind of where we are. We're gonna. If you don't know about Caleb Harris, this will be a great spot for you, I think, to get the facts and what we know so far about what's gone on.
I missed about half of what you just said on that last couple sentences.
Okay, yeah, we've been having some continuing trouble with that. I'm not sure why that is. We probably have a faulty wire somewhere, is what we're kind of guessing. So if there's anything critical that I think that we miss, hopefully folks in the chat will pick that up and ask to clarify something.
It's better now.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it seems to kind of clear itself up over time. When I listen to the show back, a lot of times it's fine after the first 30 minutes or so. So I don't know what the issue with that is. We hope to over time upgrade equipment and all those things, and maybe that will fix it if we do that eventually. But I want to start here with the story itself. So if you're not familiar with the Caleb Harris disappearance, this started March 3rd of this year. So if you follow the Sebastian Rogers story, this is about a week afterward. It's a Sunday afternoon, and Caleb Harris, a 21-year-old college student at Texas A&M, has an apartment in Corpus Christi, Texas. And he and his friends were basically just hanging out for the afternoon, doing kind of typical young man kind of stuff, playing video games, hanging out. He was a big fisherman. Caleb is a hunter and outdoorsman, loves hunting and fishing. When you look back on all of his pictures and family photos, about half of them are him out on a boat fishing somewhere, or in a duck blind or something like that, and camo and that type of thing. So huge love of nature. He was interested in environmental studies, had some interest in maybe being a game warden, an environmental scientist, something along those lines. An absolute love for the outdoors. And so he had been texting his father that afternoon, that Sunday, March 3rd, about some fishing lures he had gathered, his upcoming fishing trip the next day. And so things are kind of typical hanging out for him. This doesn't seem unusual for him in his life, according to the family and friends. Later that night, he's playing an online video game with a friend out in Colorado. They're online together for about an hour and a half. He gets off that game at approximately 10:50 p.m. And then they have a new arrival of a puppy. So one of the roommates or their friend, we're not exactly sure how this all played out, but they bring in a new puppy to the home. And our understanding through the interviews with the family members is that this puppy was meant to be kind of like a house dog, like a house pet. So it was kind of all of their dog. And they,
You're
I'm sorry.
I'm getting messages that you're cutting out again.
Okay.
So we're going to try something real quick.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second.
I wish our headphones picked up that problem, but they
Oh, I
don't for
know.
some reason because it all sounds okay
Okay.
to me.
You need to stop talking because I'm going to unplug.
Okay.
No, can't hear. No sound. No sound.
No sound at all.
Okay. Now you're back.
Now we're back. Okay. Well, I'm really kind of giving. So if we missed the timeline, and the timeline on this story is going to end up being one of the most important parts of understanding the case. Timeline, I think, and then digital data will be the two biggest clues as to what happened. So that's one of the most important parts to understand is what happened that night. So 10:30, they bring in the new puppy. Everyone's excited, and these the friends that he's rooming with, they're like lifelong friends. He's got a tight knit group, and around 1 o'clock, they are caught on a Ring camera out in their parking lot taking the puppy out. Everything on that video looks kind of normal. No one looks stressed or unusual. No arguments, anything like that. They're just taking the dog outside. Then they go back in, and they're hanging out, playing games for a little bit longer. And about 2 o'clock or so, 2 a.m., the last roommate says he's going to bed for the night. And this will be the last time that anyone has seen Caleb. It's when that roommate decides he's going to bed. They've all got an upcoming fishing trip the next day, and that they're planning. Caleb tells the roommate that he's going to hang out, stay up a little bit longer. He wanted to do some more work on his fishing lures and poles and getting those things ready. He mentions making an Uber order so that he'll have lunch the next day. And he makes that order at approximately 2:45 a.m. That morning. He had also been out to walk the puppy at 2:44 a.m., took a Snapchat shot, sent that to his little sister. I guess excited about the new dog and that kind of thing. Wanted to share that with her. A minute later, so he orders the Uber Eats. And it's like it's a typical meal for him is what we're told. Red Bull, Lunchables, a slice of pie, the kind of thing he would buy for himself if he were going to be out fishing, out where he couldn't get food. So anyway, he places that order. And then the phone dies at 2:58 a.m. At 3:03 a.m., so about 5 minutes later, there is a Snapchat sent. And the Snapchat is sent to another friend in San Antonio. And that picture is of the bridge. Can we pull up the picture of the bridge? So this is the last image sent from his phone.
Oops.
Yeah, there's Caleb there.
Whoops. I'm not sure what happened. Hold on.
Okay.
Still not good at this stuff. Everybody.
And this little bit of clue has led to a ton of speculation, as you can imagine.
Let's see if I can make it big.
This is a little bit further away from the apartment complex, but not super far. A pretty short walk. This bridge here. As you can see, it's super foggy. It's really dark. Why he took this picture, we don't know. There was no text, no other message sent with it. So we're uncertain as to why this picture was taken. If it had any meaning, or if he just thought it was a cool shot or something like that and wanted to share it with a friend. Police have not told us that part of the story either way. There's also a little bit of confusion on the 3:03 a.m. And what the father, Randy, has later speculated is that that this might have been a delay. Like when you send a text, sometimes that message doesn't go through right away. Sometimes it's a few minutes later, especially when you send an image, there might be a delay. They seem to think this is some kind of anomaly, that he probably took this picture before the phone died, but we don't know. We don't know for sure. Then at 3:12 a.m., so this is 9 minutes after the Snapchat goes through, is a ping about a half mile to a mile away from the phone. And this would be not really near this area that he was walking. And we don't know why that ping occurred either. The father also said in an interview he believed this to be an anomaly, that it might have just been bouncing off a tower. They were going to have to do tons of tech research and investigation to find out what that could have been about. So then at 3:20 a.m., a lady delivers that Uber Eats to the door, and he's not there. He had specified in his delivery instructions to just leave the food. So they didn't need someone to receive it. And then the Uber driver just simply leaves. The next morning, 11 a.m., the roommates start waking up. They find the Uber order still sitting on the front porch. Caleb's not around. His truck is present. His keys are there. His fishing poles, all of his items, wallets that he might typically would take with him, other than his phone, are all present and accounted for. Even his shoes are there. And so that's very unusual for the roommates. So their alarm bells go off right away that something's not right. Quick search around, him not being there. It's not long before they're notifying the police, and within about an hour, they have already called the father and the family, Randy, about Caleb. Police come out, investigate the apartment. There's no signs of foul play. There's no look of a struggle or anything like that. And then eventually a manhunt begins, a search all around the area. This is an apartment complex that's secured with 2 entrances, both with gates, lots of security cameras. The outlying area, there are stores that are walkable, but I wouldn't call it a densely populated place. There's like these big open fields. There's the bay not far off. There's trails and marshes and that kind of thing. So it's not away from civilization, but there are remote spaces to search, and that's what they did. There's creeks. Of course, they're searching the river, the bay. They're searching all over. Days go by. He's not found. And there's really not any clue or indication as to what had happened to him. They can't find the phone. They can't find any signs of Caleb. Dogs aren't picking up anything. They're searching that creek under the bridge. The father, Randy, of course, people thought maybe he had fallen in, got swept away, but they said that really wasn't running water. It was really just more muddy and mucky down there than anything. So that didn't seem to be a possibility. So this really just this young man just seemed to really vanish. And that's what all appearances were at that point. Over the next several months, Randy has really been out there. All the family has. I mean, they've been doing all the vigils. If you've watched them from afar, these are really impressive people, and your heart absolutely breaks when you hear these people talk. They're holding on to lots of hope and faith and perseverance. They have not given up. Randy, I've seen everywhere. He's done several different shows with Nancy Grace, and he's really had a great relationship with law enforcement. And over time, I know the mother, her belief was that he was abducted. That's what she stated at one of the vigils about. I think it was the month vigil. But we don't know, and even with the recent developments, we still don't know. So that brings us a little closer to current times. Is there anything as far as that part of the story you think I left out or overlooked that we might want to mention? Auntie, I know you're familiar with the story. Did I miss anything in the timeline that you're aware of?
No, I don't think so. I think you pretty much covered it really well. It kind of leaves us up to the latest, information. I know a few weeks ago, maybe 2, that they thought they had leads, and nothing really came of it. Law enforcement said that they're investigating some leads, but nothing really else was said about it. And then this week's occurrence.
Yeah. So are you pulling up the map now, or
Would
is
you
it
like me to
visible?
pull the map up?
Yeah, we can do that. I think
We
that-
have some people, Karen and Richard are both discussing in chat about the manhole covers. So I think we'll get to that at some point.
Yes. So if you haven't heard, and I'm going to guess most of you have heard, on Monday at 3:30, 3:30, a city worker at the water pump lift station discovered remains.
I
And
can pull up that press
yeah,
release
let's do
first.
that. Let's just make sure we get it accurate with the
Yeah.
the official
I'm
statement.
going to
here.
open it. Hold on. You go ahead. I'm trying to get it.
Yeah, so it's this this was shocking. We don't know who this person is, of course. It's really close though to the apartments, like it's within eyesight. From that, I've seen several views from that water pump lift station over to the apartments. You can, and there's like a field in between. So it is certainly possible that it's him. I've been following a lot of the locals there, like their version of the Find Caleb Harris or Mysterious Disappearance kind of pages, that kind of thing that we've done with Sebastian, and so they were of course heartbroken. The folks were very hopeful and still are that Caleb is alive. And the discovery of these remains just sent shockwaves through that group. But let's read the statement if we can. So this is from the Corpus Christi Police Department robbery homicide. Detectives are continuing the investigation into the human remains discovered Monday afternoon at the Perry Place wastewater lift station, located off the 5300 block of Lexington Road. City water employees discovered the remains while conducting maintenance operations at about 3:30 p.m. Monday afternoon and immediately contacted the police department. Detectives are attempting to determine how the human remains found their way into the wastewater lift station collection well. The remains, which bore no obvious signs of homicide, were transported to the, I don't know how to pronounce, Nueces County Medical Examiner's Office for examination. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, the medical examiner's office was unable to make an identification nor provide a manner or cause of death at this time. The remains are being sent to the University of North Texas Center for Human Identification for DNA analysis. The center is the foremost resource in the United States for the identification of missing persons and unidentified human remains. So another thing I'd heard besides the statement that the chief mentioned was that the remains were almost fully intact. So we don't know to what degree that means, but that the remains were almost complete. So something is not right there that way. That he was in an advanced state of decomposition, and that this collection well at this pump station is about 40 feet deep or so, that they were going to have to drain it. As you can imagine, these kind of places are extremely toxic. They have to be very careful. And so we won't know likely for a while who this person is. They have said that it will be, we might even know the cause of death sooner than we'll know the identity of the person. Because unless their dental records line up, it could be weeks or possibly months before we find out who this person is. And it may not be Caleb. It certainly may not be. There are several men that have gone missing in Corpus Christi. Some of them older, some of them of a similar age. And that is some of the discussion that has gone on in Caleb Harris' disappearance. Is there a problem here? Is there like a pattern? Sorry. I think we got a visitor at the door there.
One thing I found interesting is that they did find evidence of remains, and they had to drain the wastewater tank, or the area they said it was over 40 feet deep, or just at 40 feet deep. That had to be drained before that they could remove the body. And so that's when they had the hazmat suits on and had to go in after they got most of it drained. Then they had to go in and retrieve the body at that point. So it was a really difficult retrieval, and it took some time, I think, on Monday for that to transpire.
Yeah, I'm sure. And they're going to have to. I'm going to have to analyze that whole building. I would think it's going to. There's going to be a lot of work at that location. I would imagine they'll be there for days. Just going. It's a nightmare, and it's a nightmare situation. No matter how this happened or who this happened to have that be is just awful. It's heartbreaking for whichever family has lost a member this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just awful, and I think I might have missed a comment there.
Oh, Richard had just said, and I don't want to even try to say his last name because I'm afraid I'll mutilate it. But he had first said the wait has to be torture for any family, and I agree with that. I can't imagine what they're going through. And then the odds.
The odds this body was even found is crazy. Yeah, so this is
Olivia's got something. Thank you, Olivia. That's good information.
Oh, it was reported that the remains had some clothing on them. I'm thinking a preliminary identification could match up clothing.
Yeah, I did see that there were some clothing.
That's surprising. I would not have guessed because of that toxic environment that there would be any. Yeah, and I apologize in advance. Some of this discussion, because of the nature of the evidence here, it's going to be a little gruesome. I mean, we're going to try not to do try not to go too specific, but it's going to be important to find out who this man is and or if it's a man at all, and understand what happened here. So that, of course, clothing would be, because I think they know what he was wearing that night, and if this ends up being Caleb, and so that would be certainly very helpful. I know they said that they contacted Caleb's parents almost right away when they discovered this, or at least law enforcement did. And so I'm going to have to assume that's probably their best guess, just because of the proximity to the apartment complex. But like I said, there's been several missing men in the area. We don't know.
And Caleb did have a reward for his information on this discovery. He has had a reward pretty much the whole time for leads that brought him in.
Yeah, and the real to me says yes.
Real me too.
Real to the real. I guess I don't know why I did.
And
that.
Hi, real me too.
The real
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, welcome back, real me too. Yes, this is why I'm thinking it might not be Caleb. His family couldn't identify them.
Mm-hmm. And Olivia says, just trigger warning for people that.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful.
It's awful.
I don't even know if there's really I don't even know how we could discuss this in some ways without kind of getting into some really gruesome stuff. Because we're going to have to talk a little bit about how this could happen, how he could have gotten where he is, the size of these water pipes and things like that.
Yeah. So if it's not for you, we completely understand. If you want to head out.
Yeah, we'll do our best to not get into any gory kind of detail. Just try to say it in as delicate a way as we can.
Yes. And then also, can I say hi to a few people real quick?
Absolutely.
Southern Granny Wolf, thank you for joining us. Barry Happy. That's a good point, Barry Happy. Even the Ring doorbell footage of Caleb would show some clothing. And I do have a news report that we may look at later. I'm not sure.
It does. Yes.
Wise Old Lady, thanks for joining us. And then, of course, we've already talked about Richard. And, of course, Karen McIntyre. And she made me laugh with this comment when the dog was barking. It's a crime dog.
Yes, it is.
It is a crime dog. Let's see. And I just wanted to, just housekeeping wise, we do have memberships available, but please don't feel like you have to become a member to enjoy our content. We just appreciate you being here. Membership is definitely not required. I've had some people reach out to me who have expressed that they wanted to join, and membership is not required at all to be here. We love having you.
Yeah, I mean, we're not doing paywalls on our
No, of
channel or anything
course
like
not.
that.
Of
So
course
the way
not.
we just all of our videos are going to be free and that kind of thing. So that's not a. I was saying to Mrs. E the other day, whenever we have a membership come through and or super chat, that kind of thing, I always it kind of reminds me of like the days of waiting tables when you'd get that really nice gratuity that
Yeah.
would surprise you.
Right.
You know, it's kind of, oh wow, that's really nice. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It kind of is how it makes you feel. But
It is
certainly
very
not
sweet.
required. We
We just
appreciate that. But
we
that's
just
great.
appreciate the
Um,
intelligent chat and
Yes.
and respectfulness. I think that's all we can ask for, and we appreciate you guys. So, just to get back, I just wanted to mention that real quick, just some housekeeping stuff like that.
Sure. I also want to mention something. Karen McIntyre, one of her next. Let me see where she asked about the reward. Maybe further back.
I don't know. You're supposed to have your computer open
I know,
too,
but
but
yours is
you
easier
do
to see.
not.
Might be further down.
I
But
found it.
Yeah. So Karen asked, "Will the city worker receive the reward, or is it determined to be
Oh.
Caleb?"
That's a great
I remember
question.
reading that reward, one of those notices a couple of weeks ago, and it had said if he's returned safely, something along those lines. So I'm going to guess that reward would only be issued, I think, if he survives.
You know, that's not.
But I don't
honestly,
know.
we don't know enough about it to really speak on it.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
but
really know.
that's a notice that I had read when they
Oh,
were
okay.
posting the reward. That doesn't mean that if that they might choose to override their own notice.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how the rewards work like that, but that's one of the notices had said. To me, that makes sense why you would do it that way.
Right.
But because the goal is to get your child back safely.
Of course.
So I can see why you might put that stipulation on a reward like that. But
Sure.
they could, I suppose, just choose to do what they want with that funds. It depends on how legally that's all set up, which I don't know.
And I just pulled up an article about the reward specifically, and it says the reward for any information that leads to the safe return of missing college student Caleb Harris was extended and increased to $50,000. They had initially set it at 25, and then they doubled it. They had an end of the month deadline, I think, to do that, and they just said they continue to hope for their son's safe return. But other than that, I would say then probably he's not going to get that reward money just because of the circumstances.
Yeah, if it ends up being him, probably not. But anyway, that is something I've seen a few people.
Richard made a good point here. And also, thank you, The Real Me Too. That's really sweet. Just liking, subscribing, and sharing helps us, and we appreciate that too.
Yeah,
of course. That's we just like to have a place where we can talk intelligently about what's going on in the world. And we, like we've said a million times, we didn't even know this world existed. And we're happy to be here, and we're happy to, or we appreciate all your love. So, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we always love reading the comments and the emails we get.
We've got great emails.
We've got some really great ones. You're all going to know who you are, I think. But we appreciate all of the insight that you've offered into the various aspects of this case. All of those things will remain private, but we appreciate any of that information, and that all helps us to shape our understanding of these mysteries. And not everything needs to be public, and that's okay too.
Right. And Richard says the key word is safe return.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good point. And then, hi, Turtle Madness. Thanks for joining us again. Turtle Madness says the CD would not collect the reward money. They wouldn't want it. Okay.
This was the CD.
City. Turtle Madness clarified.
City. Oh, okay. Okay. City. The city would not collect. Yeah. So I do want to go into just a couple of the aspects of the story that are the more puzzling, that are harder for me to have understood. Some of these things I've clarified for myself, and I thought might be interesting to talk about for you. And some of these I can't answer. So one thing I kept coming across was that the doors were locked. And if you haven't seen a map of this apartment complex,
well, I've got the map. Do you want me to pull that up?
It probably won't be helpful. For
okay,
this.
I'll wait.
So they have two doors. They have what they call a front door and a back door.
I actually have
But the
pictures of
back
that.
door actually ends up serving, for all intents and purposes, as a front door. So it leads to the parking lot.
Okay, I'll pull that up.
And so that's where they really kind of typically come in and out of. It's their most used door. And that's where they were caught on camera by that, where they were having the puppy out for a walk at 1 a.m.
So this would be considered the back door.
I think so. So they're kind of like these little townhouse apartments or whatever.
I think they call them the villages or something like that, or
the cottages.
Cottages. That's right.
Yeah, and they're and so what they call their front door is their less used door. It's cuter.
I've got that.
And it faces the swimming pool.
I've got that.
So their cottages are in a big circle, and what they call their front door faces the swimming pool area with like a grassy spot. So that when you saw that picture, yes, like this. So when you saw
this is not necessarily his apartment. This is just some things I got online just to kind of have a point of reference.
Yes. And when he goes out with the puppy, that's out the front door into that area at 1 o'clock. When he goes out with the puppy the second time, they believe he went out what they call the front door towards this grassy area. And that's when he goes down the street later. And it takes the dog with the picture, sends that to his sister. Okay, so that hopefully that explains kind of how that happened, why he wasn't caught on camera each time. Another puzzling aspect is the dog in general. So how did the dog get back into the building? We don't really know for sure. The assumption is that he came back to the same door, the front door, brought the puppy back in, and then went out again. But we can't really prove that that's how that happened. That's just kind of logically the assumption we can make. But can we 100% know that? We really can't. Another thing that's going to come up is going to be the shoes. So Caleb, apparently it was not uncommon for him to walk around barefoot. That he often, like when he went out with the dog previously, other times, I guess he had been barefoot. He would often go places like that. And that may seem strange it does to me. But I've seen lots of discussions about this with the shoes, and lots of folks are saying, oh, it's not that unusual for college kids to just walk around barefoot, go over to the store barefoot, whatever. Maybe it's just because they're down by the bay. It's kind of got a little more seaside vibe, that kind of thing. I don't know, but I thought that was weird. But apparently for him, it's not that unusual to go walking around barefoot, even if you were going for a stroll. So that didn't raise any red flags with the parents.
And Karen was asking if it was I'm sorry, hold on one second. Karen was asking if it was a brand new puppy, and I believe they got it that night.
Yeah, they had just had it for a few hours.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Aunt.
The last video that they have online of him is between the cars with the dog. That's the surveillance video. So at some point they were in the cars area with the dog.
Right.
That was around 1 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's with the roommate and I think a future roommate that hadn't quite moved in yet or whatever. That's my understanding. I might be off on the roommate part. So another thing, of course, is the Uber Eats. And I think that if this Uber delivery doesn't happen, I don't even know where the story is in a lot of ways as far as
in the disappearance of a college.
Sorry, I have pictures I have the video footage from this clip, the show, just so everybody can see. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now tonight, we are learning more about the search for Caleb Harris as police comb through dozens of tips. One of those tips could be a credible sighting in Corpus Christi. KENS 5 reporter Hannah Tita has been following this puzzling case.
Okay, I just wanted to show that footage. So that's all. I couldn't, I shouldn't say I couldn't. I did not find it, on its own. So that's where I had it.
Yeah.
From the ring. That's from the Ring doorbell.
I think, I don't know where this case would have been if that food had not been sitting there, but to have an Uber Eats sitting there that was delivered at 3:20 a.m., that gives us a great timeline on what happened. Otherwise, they wouldn't have known what hour. The kids aren't up till 11 a.m. There would have been a lot going on. Question from Olivia: the Uber Eats driver was cleared. Yes, they did. So it ended up being a 31-year-old female. They cleared her pretty early on. They cleared the roommates as well. And they publicly did this. Where I saw it was on Nancy Grace, the one of the detectives was on there with the father, Randy. They also cleared a gentleman that had left there early that morning. Apparently wished to, like early morning hours.
Left his girlfriend's, right?
Left his girlfriend's apartment and had driven to, was it Houston or somewhere, some really long drive, several hours away, but they cleared him too. So you kind of had initially, you have, obviously you think people in the house or this Uber Eats driver or the guy that leaves in the middle of the night, but they cleared all of them. So there's really like no suspects. They cleared them all one by one and publicly stated that. So for the law enforcement to go out and declare that, then they have to feel pretty confident that these people are not involved. So that did leave everyone with a list of just all kinds of possibilities. Unfortunately, a lot of it got into wild rumors and just gossip and speculation, a lot of it. But there were some that have been mentioned by the parents, have been mentioned by law enforcement, just seem logically feasible. At this point, we don't know, because we still don't know if this is going to end up being Caleb in this lift station or not. One idea, of course, is did he leave on his own? Is he starting a new life for some reason? No keys, no wallet, truck not gone, very unlikely. Did he take his own life somehow? The family didn't seem to believe that.
No, I mean, people that are in that state are not planning. He'd already registered. He'd already signed a new lease. He was registering for classes for the next semester. Was planning a fishing trip the next day. I mean, that doesn't seem like that.
He was going to be was it a kayak instructor or something like that?
Oh, in Alaska. Yeah, in Alaska.
Some kind of job lined up, and he had plans and things, and the family didn't seem to feel that he had medical issues with depression or anything like that. Of course, you don't always know what's going on with people in their minds. But,
right. That's true. You don't know what can trigger somebody. You're right.
Yeah, anything could be going on. So it had to be a possibility, right? Another is could it have been a hit and run situation? I heard this thought floated by someone, but it seemed possible.
I think there's a lot of possibilities here. Olivia makes a really great point.
Yes, Olivia says, as you can see, people can be cleared without a body. Now think about the Sebastian case and why they haven't cleared all involved.
Yes, that's a really good point. And also, while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and plug Olivia B's channel. Yeah. Olivia B has got a channel. She's got some great shorts on there, and she will be going live soon. So I would encourage everybody here to follow her. She's a wonderful person. And
Yay, Olivia.
And I know her content's going to be amazing.
Yeah, super professional, very interested in true crime. And so I'm sure she will be doing a great job with it. We'll be excited to see it.
Yes, and in any way we can help out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I can moderate for you. I can help you that way. Because
you don't want me doing it. I won't.
No, he won't know what to do.
Mrs. E would be great.
Yes, Auntie could probably help, but this one you don't want.
No.
And I'm sorry to get off track. I know people get upset when I interrupt you. So
that's okay.
I mean, that's just kind of how we are. We interrupt each other constantly. So
we do. It's like a pause button, though. We just start back up.
Yes, that's true.
So another possibility. I've just kind of written what I think are the most talked about, most feasible. That maybe it was an accident. That let's even say whether or not this turns out to be Caleb in this building or not. Could he have fallen in a ravine, been close to the bay, slipped on some rocks, fallen in a hole? We've all seen, I think, at this point, probably these pictures of these manhole, the open ones.
Do you want me to pull up the map?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's do that.
You go ahead and keep talking. I'll work on it.
I know before these remains were discovered, I kind of in my mind had my top 3 possibilities, and the accident seemed like one of them more likely to me.
Okay.
Just because.
I don't know. Let me pull down Olivia's thing real quick. Okay. Oh, is that kind of hard to see?
Can you make it larger?
I'll try to zoom in on the areas we're talking about.
Yeah, and that Perry Place lift station is exactly where the body was found.
Okay, so yes. Okay, I'm gonna I'll even try to make us even smaller if that doesn't help.
Sure.
I'll try to zoom in some more. If that helps.
Oh, that's
okay.
good.
Is that good, Ann?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So if you don't mind, I'll
Yeah.
take it from here
You
for a
probably
second.
understand this better than I do.
Well, I worked on this map a little bit yesterday. So as you can see, the cottages at Corpus Christi, that's the first star right there. I don't know if it shows, if I go into, Aunt E, tell me, can you see my mouse moving?
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect. Okay, so as you can see, the cottages of Corpus Christi are right here. And then about 200 feet away is that bridge.
Yeah, the Snapchat Foggy Bridge. There
The
was
Foggy Bridge.
That's where that last picture was taken. That's the last known time that he was alive that we know of.
Right. And so just out of assumption, I would think that he, came out of the front. There are 2 exits here. There's an exit down here as well. But just for, this, me kind of going through the map, I'm assuming he went out the front to the right near the ravine. This through here is the drainage ditch. So it goes under here this way, and it goes all this way. So everybody has been mentioning the uncovered manhole. The uncovered manhole is in this area right here. So I'll tell you what I thought when I looked at this map initially. Also, just for reference, let me go over here real quick. The last ping is over here.
Yeah, it's really far.
It's pretty far away, and I would think it would take several minutes. I think it took, when I did the distance, it was 2.3 miles or so
That's a pretty good hike.
Right. But it was going by the roads and not necessarily cutting cross country. So if he was someone who was just kind of following the river, or not river, but drainage ditch, if he was following the drainage ditch along, and cutting through places, maybe, but that's, I think that the police had said that's an anomaly, right?
That's
the ping?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what they think. Like he just bounced off a tower, got delayed, something like that.
But this field, even though it's gray, this is a field, and this seems to be the area of the manhole that you guys might have seen on the Facebook page, where it's about what did we determine?
It's like a nightmare.
Yeah,
Of that field.
it's just kind of an uncovered manhole there, and then this is the water station in which there were remains discovered, which is leading everyone to think that it could possibly be him.
Right. And whether this is how the accidental, if it's an accidental death, that something like this might have happened. Whether this ends up being him or not, it's a possibility that he, maybe fell in something that that Upland manhole thing was just, when I first saw that, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that this exists. How does that happen? And I actually have stepped in something kind of like that before at a campsite. That was
have
uncovered.
you?
Yeah, when we were in Arkansas, coming back in the dark.
Well, Richard said he almost stepped in an open manhole.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't.
That's right. I forgot about that. You almost broke your leg.
I did.
Yes.
So there's stuff in it. There was no way it was dark, so I didn't know. But it wasn't big enough for me to go down, but easily could have broken a leg just falling in that thing. And I know that there are people that have passed away that way, falling in places like that. You just don't know.
Did you want to demonstrate the size?
Yeah. So we've been reading on a lot of folks that
about this manhole. Because this seems like, is it a possibility? We don't know.
So what we're told is that at the narrowest spots.
Okay, let me pull this down so we can.
They would be like 15.
See you better.
Yeah, so they'd be like 15 inches in diameter, right? So if you fell in at their most narrow part, so like if I held this up to me here, I'm a couple of inches taller than Caleb. Of course, I'm heavier set than
Well,
21-year-old.
he's much thinner than you.
But that's another 3 or 4 or 5 inches maybe that you'd have to be able to get through. So, if he fell into a space like that, I don't know if he would. I don't know what would happen, and it might depend on how deep into the hole that was. Could he have gotten stuck that way? You would kind of think as soon as you start to fall, maybe you grab or catch something, but I don't know.
Rick,
I once met a guy. Just wanted to mention this. I once met a guy though years ago. He was from New York City, and he was telling me a story about how he was walking down the sidewalk once, and there was one of those like air conditioning, like those grates, that are just in the sidewalk. You don't think anything about them. He was walking, fell through one of those into the thing. He didn't remember the fall at all and went into a coma for months.
My gosh.
And I think about that every time I'm in a downtown setting. I think about those little metal grate things.
You'll have to tell me who that was later.
I always circle around, and people think I'm probably nuts for circling around those things, but I never walk on them.
I always walk on them.
Yeah, I always avoid them because I've thought about that guy for 20 years.
Well, I wish you'd told me that story sooner.
Yes. So, those things can happen. You just don't know, and especially with an open one. But
Richard is asking, is that manhole partially covered or is it fully open? From what we can tell, it's fully open. There was a video on Facebook about it. And I did not download that video, but in the Caleb Harris, what's the name of that group? Missing Caleb Harris.
I don't know, but it was older. So it wasn't
I'll find it for you, Richard, so you can join. And it's on there though. Someone reposted it after the remains were found.
So it wasn't a recent video. It was like a few weeks after he had gone missing. Somebody found that and was showing the proximity to the apartment, which you could clearly see across the field and that kind of thing. So
actually, I probably should pull it up if I can.
I've been reading.
It's called Missing Talk of Caleb Harris.
Missing Talk of Caleb Harris is one of the ones we've been following. There's a couple of others though. But you'll find it there. So we've been trying to read on different engineers and things, city workers, people that know about how these lift stations work and things. And that generally what I'm getting a sense of is it would be very difficult for him to have gotten in that spot without getting caught somewhere by like a grate or because you don't want large items floating through your sewer and getting into that point of the building. So there's usually filters and sensors and things that if something big's coming through, typically a sensor would go off, a city worker would come out, find it. So what they're saying is that it would be very unusual for someone like that to get, especially a full body, to get in a place like that where typically anything over like 3 inches couldn't even get through. So there's a little bit of an unanswered question here. That the police are saying that this building should not be accessible, that no one could just get in there, that he must have come through the sewage. But people that work in this industry are saying that this is odd. This is hard to explain. And maybe we'll get some clarity on this, but it's an unanswered question to me at this point. But I don't have the knowledge in that field to know the answer. I'm relying at this point on experts.
This is a good point from Wine Time. Just wondering if he went out to test a lure and maybe fell in an open manhole. I mean,
could have. I
mean, I think, anything's possible and we may never know. But we don't know, again, we don't know that these remains are him. So there is no confirmation that they're him. There are other missing people in the area. I believe they said that a young lady was found just, I think, the day before, correct?
Not long before.
Yeah.
And that's caused some confusion because people are.
That's a good point as well. Barry Happy said no searcher fell in it. So obviously people did work around it, and that was an area that was searched.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. You look back on those old search videos and
I also want to just check my volume for people that are listening. I think it's your headphones that's giving you also such a loud volume of me. I just want to see how I sound to other people. So if you could give us a 1 if I sound clear or a 2 if I am too loud, please.
Well, I think that I always consider you too loud. So
also want to mention another possibility, people that asked about him going fishing. Like, could he have maybe just thought, night fishing is not that uncommon.
Right.
But what the parents and his friends have said is he never fished alone. It was kind of one of those rules. Like, You never hunt alone. You never fish
Right.
alone. And that he abided by that he didn't do that alone. And that this also was not one of his favorite fishing areas, that the places he liked to go fishing were further away, like that you'd have to get in the car and go. So not looking like maybe not, but maybe he could have just, I don't know. I know when I try to think about what I was like when I was that age. I would have gone for nighttime strolls and walks, but I could have been up till 3 a.m. and certainly done something like that. But so it's just hard to say.
We're having a little chat war because I put 2 that she's too loud, and so then she put
You're
1.
the only 2. I really think it's your headphones that my sound is coming through too loud to you. So if you turn your volume down on the computer or wherever you're plugged into, it should turn my volume down for you.
See, I think what happens though is when I turn my volume down, it also turns his volume down on the mic. So I'm just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Sorry.
I'm anyway.
I've got my mic really far away.
I'm joking. I mean, not joking, but it does kind of shock me when you speak. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. I'm not being mean.
I also just wanted to go through some of the other. I got 2 more possibilities.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
okay. I just want to go
That
through.
accident is the first one, right?
Well, I mean, actually, there's a few. I mean, it's just how feasible do we think they are, and everything changes if this ends up being Caleb, but we just don't know. Like if he had just left with someone he knew, could he have been picked up by a friend and gone somewhere, and along those lines, or lastly, I think, is this some type of abduction, and that's what the mother has believed, and that's possible. Could it? So there's a lot of. I mean, really, almost anything's on the table. Then outside of that, because you just don't have any of the clues, you don't have anything left behind. You don't have like the cameras. The problem with the cameras, it was super foggy night, so nothing got picked up. The cameras at the apartment complex. So they advertise, I guess, that this is a super secure location. They've got it's a gated community. You've got cameras everywhere.
Right.
Well, the gates were all open, so anybody could have come and gone.
That was one thing. Did you read that about? They said that when they went to go check the footage.
Yeah,
that
the cameras don't work.
The cameras don't work, and the gates stay open all night.
None of the cameras work.
And that's just another piece of evidence, especially around college campuses and college housing. I mean, that is so imperative that they have working cameras and working security systems. And people just don't think that they think because it's college students, they don't need to worry about it. But actually, I think it's much more important because of these types of situations. Exactly.
Oh. I've seen on these pages that the parents of the kids that live there, that are like live a couple of doors, they're terrified. They're going to school there. They've got these young girls and boys, and they don't know if they've got there's some fear there that this is not
isolated,
are connected, because these have gone on for a few years, and that they could be connection. So there's some real concern that if it is an abduction and he's taken his life in some way, that they could have a real serious predator there in Corpus Christi. That's a real fear that they have, and I'd be scared to have my child in that apartment complex right now.
Well, let's hope that they have taken, some actions to reform this. I was reading some reviews about it, and it says that the management's not stellar. The reviews say that. I don't know personally, but
and unfortunately, that's I found that with my kids in college in different complexes that they were in. That's not uncommon. They know that college kids aren't going to complain about security and stuff like that because they typically don't. They're too busy being college kids, and they don't complain, so they don't get as much. I guess negative reviews or information, coming to them that are in the form of a complaint. So they just don't deal with it. And typically that's the most unsafe housing is around college campuses.
Well, right. Turtle Madness says, I lived in Corpus. There's a lot of homeless people that camp out they're everywhere. Unfortunately, I think it's becoming a problem everywhere.
Right.
So
it sure is.
The big colleges often get it because the kids will give them money and that kind of,
Well,
and so I've never been to Corpus Christi, so I don't know that situation. I wonder.
It looked lovely. but I don't really know.
Yeah, I've got friends that have gone to school there, but I've not been there myself.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to your second theory.
Oh, theory number 2. Sorry.
Well, no, so really the last one is the abduction idea, but then it becomes how did that happen? And there are a lot of ways. So, with it being foggy and he's out for a walk, we don't know. Did somebody pull over? Did he recognize somebody and talk and get grabbed or attacked? And there's no camera footage, so we just don't know. So to me, it seems like the two most likely are that he's abducted or he had an accident. I think in my mind, that's where I'm at. Although I don't guess you could completely rule out a,
well, I also think there's a lot of discussion. Richard's mentioned it several times about the Reddit account and possibly he was meeting up with someone. We don't have to go into those details, but that is something that
Is that theory number 3?
Well, that would still fit with the abduction idea. So, like,
I don't know that would be considered an abduction. It just could be an interaction that went bad. And abduction, I think someone's taken away and taken somewhere. If you
I see what you're saying.
I think abduction is being
wow
taken away.
Oh,
Okay.
I see what you're saying. I guess I was kind of thinking of them as the same way. Turtle Madness 2024 says there is a lot of homeless guys that will beat your car up and drag you out, and that's right there in the city on Henry.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I've been in places where the homeless can be really aggressive.
A good place to live, a horrible place to, or a good place to visit, a horrible place to live.
Wow, that sounds horrible.
I'm so sorry. And Diane, we are going to be discussing that. We're just kind of we're getting to it shortly about the Reddit stuff, because you need to go through the facts of it or what we know.
So I know you're going to know this a little bit better, but kind of in a more broad sense. One of the thoughts that I keep having is more general. What happens with college kids, right? So if you can think back, if you're not that age already, if you remember when you're in that age, you're 19, 20, 21 years old, you kind of have a secret life a lot of times that your parents don't know all about. You're probably having too many drinks. You're maybe hooking up with people. You're experimenting with different things. Whatever it is, you're going to parties. You're out late. You're doing dumb stuff. Just dumb stuff that you don't do now. You're that age, and your parents don't know anything about it. I think we all probably can relate to this to some degree. Not you. You were. Well, I forget. Perfect. Granny is probably watching the stream, so you were perfect. But I mean, I know. So I've thought, what if he had a secret hookup that he didn't want his friends to know about, that kind of thing. And, I had situations like that when I was in college. Nothing off, just like we just didn't want our friends to know that we were together.
So you were ashamed
messed
of
stuff up.
Just
just for jealousy purposes and different things. We just kind of keep things on the down low sometimes.
No, I think everybody can relate to that.
I think
not somebody you're ready to introduce to your friends.
Right. Just different situations present themselves that way. Or if you're experimenting with drugs, you don't go tell your parents necessarily that you've smoked or that you got had a dozen beers or whatever, and we're doing shots and all that. They're just things you don't.
Right.
You don't communicate everything that happens in college to your parents, so they can be completely in the dark on some things. So it seemed feasible to me that he might have some kind of secret rendezvous of some sort that night. And then the Reddit rumor comes out, and whether it happens this way or not, what this is referring to is that he may have had a secret Reddit dating kind of account. And I don't know how this stuff works exactly, but it's a way for people to kind of meet and hook up without everybody in the world knowing about it.
Right.
I think it's kind of a no strings attached type of thing where people can just have no string attached, do what they want to do, and then they go back to their regular life.
Right. And it kind of, in this technological world, it makes sense that probably happens a lot more than we know, especially with techie kids that know how to do this stuff. Even if the parents have full access to their accounts and everything, kids know how to work around stuff. They know how to do things and stay kind of off the grid and not have their friends all know what they're doing or whatever. So There's a post that supposedly was made sometime after 2 o'clock from an account that they think might be Caleb's. The parents, and this is all
I can
hurtful, by the
pull up.
way.
I can pull up the account.
I want to be delicate with this because I think this has all been hurtful to the family. Like
And,
this
and I
rumor.
don't think the family is denying it, but I also don't think it's something they want all the information shared. So I think we can delicately handle the descriptions and what it says without.
Well, I don't. Well, then let's not pull it up because
Yeah,
there's
I don't
no
see any
reason.
to.
Yeah,
Because I don't think it matters the details of what he was doing exactly. Because at the end of it doesn't really ultimately matter what his tastes were or what he was into and all that kind of thing, or and just because we don't even know if this is his kid's account 100% at all. We just don't know. One of the parts that made it indicate that maybe it is that someone was saying they wanted to have a rendezvous at Oso Bay. What was the name of this?
It was Oso Bay. I looked it up.
Yeah, Oso Bay and hiking trail, right? Wasn't this it? And it's not terribly far away, but it's not super close either. So if you're kind of thinking maybe this is not his account, that might be
Oso Bay hiking trail.
Yeah, it basically suggests let's meet there.
But again,
don't know
that's
what
about 2.5 miles away, or 2.3 miles away.
Yeah,
again,
it's about 2 miles away. It's what we tracked from that apartment, and the other direction. So maybe they had messaged a different way and had said no, let's meet here instead. I don't know. And even if it wasn't the Reddit thing, it could have been a different dating app that we're unaware of, or just a different secret message, a Discord, or whatever. Kids have all these kind of ways. I'm sure police are
aware
digging into the phone, or not the phone because they don't have the phone, but they're digging into his accounts and that kind of thing and getting warrants and all that takes some time to get those things turned over electronically, but they're working it. But let's say, however it might have happened, whether it was through electronics or even just a planned meeting. Maybe he had let's meet here at 3:15 or 3 o'clock tonight.
Right.
However it was set up, in a place with no cameras, if he got there, if he thought he was meeting someone and someone different showed up, or a dispute or an argument or a predator, or like these people are thinking some kind of serial situation. That's what a lot of the locals are wondering.
Yeah.
That does make a lot of sense when you have all the rest of the facts that he might have been meeting someone in a clandestine kind of way, because he didn't lock the door, he didn't take his keys, he didn't take his wallet. All he took really was his phone. So he clearly, in his mind, it seems appeared to plan on returning pretty soon.
Right.
I know one thing I thought, and maybe it's just because I'm older. I was just thinking, if you're going to meet somebody for a dating kind of situation, I wouldn't go barefoot. I think that's kind of, I just think I would put shoes on. But I've heard other people in the area and college age people say, no, that wouldn't mean anything.
His dad even said it was
know.
not unusual for him to go barefoot for long periods of time. His dad even, he said he did it all the time. He was always around fishing and water, and he just went barefoot a lot.
Yeah, I just think that's a strange, but to meet especially if it were like a first time meeting, like a hookup thing.
I don't
know.
Well, I've said to you many times, there was a girl in college with me that I never once saw her in shoes, not formals, not walking down the street, not in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Never wore shoes.
I realize I'm wrong. I've heard a lot of people say this in the different chats and things that, oh no, this is not that unusual, especially for college kids. So yeah, I guess I'm just mistaken on that. It seems strange to me, but that might explain. That seems like a logical explanation, as does an accident. So to me, those are the two possibilities there. And I don't know. You have anything to add to that Reddit dating situation?
Richard had a good point that if that account is real, he did that often. I did check out the account, and there were several posts like that. Most of the posts were what was that? for females.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first post that was different. I think it said any.
It just was A for any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there have been some people that speculated that that was just a typo, that was possible just a typo. But there is a DM. It says DM me, and then the user that they're speaking to that says DM me deleted their account.
Right.
So it's hard to know.
But
Well, it would be hard to know anyway. You can be any, that's the unfortunate thing about online is it's hard to identify people. And
there's a lot of ways that could have played out too. So if let's say you were innocently contacting Caleb or whoever this person is on Reddit, once this all blows up and becomes a huge story, I could just imagine somebody going, okay, I'm deleting my account.
Well, I could see that too. But it is suspicious.
It is suspicious, but it doesn't necessarily mean guilt on that person's part either. I could see them just thinking, "Oh my God,
I want to get far away from this."
I was planning on meeting somebody there, and they never showed up, and that
right. I mean, yeah. I mean, especially if it's someone similar age, they're going to be afraid.
It gets into a lot of speculation too. Did he even meet them? Did they DM and say, "Hey, let's meet somewhere else"? We don't know what happened after that very last transaction on there. And it could have been something, and then he was on his way back, and something happened accidental. Yeah. So that's only a tiny little portion of his story that may or may not have anything to do with it.
I heard some podcaster, and I cannot recall who speculated this theory, but that what if, because it was such a foggy night, could he have been hit in some kind of by a car? And then somebody was like, I'm gonna hide the body rather than get a manslaughter charge.
I saw that as well.
So could that have happened? Sure, I think that could have happened. I mean, there's really a lot of possibilities. So a confounding mystery. What would be very helpful would be to actually find the phone. There was a phone that was reported found about 2 weeks ago.
The same type.
Yeah, it was an iPhone 12.
Which was what he was missing.
Yes, and it was found on a shoreline on the bay, not crazy far away, but not right there. And the way that the person that found it described it was that when they picked up the phone, somebody nearby told them that some other people had found it in the water and had just kind of tossed it over there. So this person then took it to the police, not really even thinking about Caleb, just like, hey, somebody lost the phone.
Right.
Brought it to the police station, and later was like, oh, what if this is Caleb's? So may or may not be. I don't know if they could retrieve anything. We don't know anything from police about that. The other kind of investigative things that have happened, I guess at one point they tried to reactivate the phone. This is technology I don't quite...
Oh, they cloned it.
They cloned it. Mm-hmm. But don't they hold some amount of battery power where they can temporarily activate a phone? Am I wrong about that? Or is that what the cloning means?
Cloning is like they take the profile and kind of like when you get a new phone.
Okay.
And you download your stuff in the cloud.
Yeah.
So they get a different phone and they bring that stuff in to try to search it, to try to figure out what happened.
Yes.
But wasn't there something about there showed some activity, that his phone showed some activity?
Oh.
And they thought that might be them trying to reactivate his phone.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
There's a couple of things with this case that I've had a hard time finding. That's one of them. The other is that there was mention of a body part a few days ago. And
yes, that was weird.
I was never able to confirm that.
Yes, there was supposedly, and I heard it through several different YouTube people, and one of them I thought was a pretty good source, but I don't know if if our viewers have any information about an arm being found the day before, just an arm.
And but when you go and try to search that, there's nothing about that. So I don't know where this rumor came from. But you would think law enforcement would have put that out somewhere if they found that.
Richard said, yes, they said police were possibly in the phone, accessing it finally because his accounts went active that same day. Yeah. They thought maybe that maybe the police had cloned it and was back active, so that's why it showed that it was.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so that might be what
that might be right.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of checking back on the chat here to see.
We've had some good chat stuff. So
Yeah.
why don't you guys go ahead and post what you think what your theory is? Do you feel like that maybe it was an accidental thing? Do you think it's possible he fell in this? Well, we don't know that that's his remains. I'm sorry. I'm making an assumption here that those remains are his, and we don't know that. And we aren't probably going to know that for weeks.
I think they said it could be 6 weeks, up to 6 weeks.
I think it's totally feasible. It's one of these other missing people. I genuinely don't know.
And how would someone get in there in the first place?
Yeah,
And that's the big question. Is so many people have already said there's no way they could have entered it themselves. They had to have been put there. But like Mr. E said, the width of his shoulders to get in, they said that the opening was so small that it would be very difficult for a person to put their own body in there and fit in it.
Yeah.
I was going to look at his poster if it shows his height and weight.
It does on one of them, I think.
Yeah, not all of them though, right?
He's 5'11" is what I was reading.
I read that, but I couldn't remember if they put his weight on there.
Like 180, I think is what I've heard.
Let me see. No, the ones I'm seeing, no.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's 180.
Okay, let me try. I've got a few. Let's see.
And these parents have been so.
Well, that's a whole other thing to talk about.
If you have, if you ever find yourself
for a minute, I'll be back.
Okay. If you ever find yourself in a situation, where you were in trouble, like Caleb, you want his parents advocating for you. I mean, they've been like amazing. It reminds me a little bit of the Riley Strain parents, the way they handled everything and got the media so involved and billboards everywhere and get the big reward and the dad making all the rounds. You know how much it's got how hard it would be to get up and do that over and over and tell these stories and answer these questions. And, but he's done it, and he's done it with a lot of, they've kept a lot of faith and positivity in it. And, you don't want anybody to pass away this way, but it will hurt to know that if that ends up being him, that'll be really hard just because from afar I've come to really feel for him. Just because I've seen him so much speaking, you can just tell what kind of dad he is and what a solid, good guy he is. And it's going to be heartbreaking for everybody if this is what's happened.
Yes, they've really been out there and a huge advocate for finding answers and staying on the police, which I thought was really important. And also, I did look up the information about the phone. They said that the detective said the recent apparent reactivation of Harris's phone was a result of investigative techniques employed by forensic computer examiners. They clarified that this activity does not indicate that Harris himself had restarted the phone. So that's what was going on, is they had created a clone and were doing forensics on that information. And that's why people thought, I guess, maybe had a glimmer of hope that maybe his phone had restarted.
See, okay, that makes sense. Because what I was reading was that apparently iPhones in particular, even when they go dead, save a certain amount of energy or battery power where it's possible to reactivate them from afar. But I guess that's not so that's why got people confused, I suspect. This is a really insightful comment, I think, from Diane Summerhalder.
Right.
I think young people feel invincible and don't have the sense of fear that we develop with age. Social media is a huge part of their lives. I feel like another party is involved. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't, 21 years old, I wouldn't think anything about walking across a field alone at night. I know I wouldn't.
I know with my own kids, I all through college kept telling them, you can't, you think you can befriend people and trust people. You just have to always have your back. Just like with the Riley Strain case, it only takes one error in judgment to cause a tragedy. And I always told my kids, you don't want to be that person. You don't want to make that mistake that costs you your life because you were just being dumb or just being a careless kid, and it's sad, but that our world has changed and evolved so much that we have to, I guess, warn them of every small thing that can cause them, something can cause them strife, grief, or tragedy. And it's a scary world that we live in now. And you can't trust, you have to watch your back, you have to protect yourself at all times. And they don't have a chance to put their guard down and be kids the way kids used to be able to do without the threat of something bad happening to them.
Yeah, I understand what he's doing. I mean, I understand if this is what happened, if he was like a no strings attached kind of hook up. I mean, I'm young guys, they're just,
it could be one.
I get it. It's so easy. It's so easy. You've got your phone right there and you want to hook up with a girl or whatever. And no strings attached, and
Olivia made a good point there. She said, also kids need to stay together. You don't go out alone. The case with Riley, he went out on his own by himself. Yep. Same thing with this situation with Caleb. I mean, he had ventured out by himself. His roommates went on back in the house. Dog was in the house, and he took off on his own. Yeah.
You don't know who's on the other end of those phones. It could have been, even if he thought he was meeting a girl and some serial killer guys there, you just don't know. You don't know who you're talking to at all. And it's just so, and you're young, you're trusting. You think you're invincible. You just think you're not going to get yourself in a bad spot. And the Roddy Strain's a great example of that. Because if one of his buddies leaves when he gets kicked out of that bar, he's very likely, he's very likely alive today.
Yeah.
So that's, that you just got to have somehow ingrain those hard, fast rules in the kids. And, this could happen to any parent. Any kid could go off to school and something like, it's terrifying because you just don't know what your kid might do. Your brain's not full, you just don't have the life experience to know how dangerous the world can be. And,
Opie mom said, I always told my kids that nothing good happened late at night, and there's so many crimes being committed right now, and that's true. My philosophy with my kids was always nothing good happens after midnight. There's no reason for you to be out after midnight, and they will tell you that now. If you say, what's one thing your mom always said, they would say nothing good happens after midnight. We don't need to be out after midnight.
Yeah. No doubt. We just so you can, we've just been kind of discussing the dangers that the kids face and that type of thing.
I'm terrified.
Yeah, I mean, this,
and being, talking about these things really doesn't help.
No,
I have to be honest.
But it makes
you do sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, just like.
It makes you more aware, and it makes you know what you want your kids to know. And obviously, we do this because we want to talk about these things, and hopefully it'll wake other people up to knowing, hey, you know what, I need to talk to my teen about that, or need to talk to my kid about when you're out in a group, not to leave the group, that kind of thing. Those are all things you just don't think about sometimes until something like this hits you in the face.
No, right. You don't know if the kids are taking you seriously when you do give the warnings. We give lots of warnings.
We give a lot of warnings. We already had the Reddit talk.
How many of them are going over their head and they're like, whatever. They're nodding and they're saying the right things. How seriously are they taking us on these warnings?
I mean, but did you take your parents very seriously on warnings?
I mean, some didn't. I don't know. I did plenty of dumb things.
I mean, I wonder if I were a teen or a young adult now, if I would even still be alive with some of the dumb things I did.
Going to dangerous places, getting in cars with people that have too much to drink, and just all kinds of, just lots of things where, lucky to be alive, and ended up in dangerous areas.
You have to keep repeating it constantly. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm glad we have all these apps we can have on the kids' phones, the Life 360s and things like that. That helps some. But like in this case where the phone dies and
there's not a lot you can do about it.
That's our tracking device in a lot of ways. And
My son lets his phone die all the time, and he's an adult. And I'm like, don't let your phone die. Never let it die. You know, he'll sit at work all day and he'll be driving home and it dies. And I'm like, you were sitting at your desk all day. Why did you not have it plugged up? And, you know, those are just some of the little things that.
Yeah, we get that too.
Yeah. Oh, frustrating.
It is.
Did anybody throw out a theory?
No.
Nobody?
It looks like most folks are kind of
people say that they didn't think it was an accident.
Yeah, that's been the majority of folks are saying that. Most are thinking that it was.
Well, somebody says, this is a good point. Somebody says, how do you know it could have been his own roommates? I think they've cleared the roommates totally. I don't think that they're.
Well, that's one thing I found interesting, is that even there's not a body. We don't know what happened to him, but they absolutely cleared the Uber driver. They cleared the fellow that was leaving at 3 a.m.
The roommate.
And they've cleared the roommates. And we hear in other cases that people are not cleared. And that really makes you look at other cases, such as the Sebastian Rogers case, and kind of with a different eye when you hear that people say you can't clear people without a body, and that's not necessarily true.
Right. I mean, they did it. It is. I almost don't want to say it, but it is possible for law enforcement to make a mistake clearing people. It has happened before. It happened in the Holly Bobo case in Nashville. Anyone recalls that one? They had cleared the people that eventually got convicted for that.
Do you want to give a quick rundown of that, or do you know enough about it?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
know. But it was because it was a few years ago, and that was one where her poster was all over Nashville.
I vaguely remember that one, but I don't know the details.
We might actually talk about that story at some point, because one of them is changing his story, and they had a special. I think it was on 2020, and but anyway, it was an interesting story in the way that law enforcement eventually got the convictions, and there were a lot of questions around that one. But outside of Sebastian, that might be the biggest missing person story in this area that I can recall.
In the Nashville area, not in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I would say Summer Wells is probably the biggest.
Yeah, Summer Wells was probably the biggest.
Pretty big.
The Holly Bobo was a pretty big story.
That was in downtown, right?
Well, it happened at her home, but she, it wasn't far. But her posters were all over the downtown area.
Yeah, it was everywhere. Wine Time asked if the phone actually died or was it turned off. I don't think we know that. We don't know. I did read when I was doing the research, though. I did read that with the Reddit stuff, that oftentimes that's kind of an understanding, is that you turn off your phone or location, go into airplane mode when you're meeting up with someone. That's kind of part of the anonymity of it.
Yes.
So, I mean, it depends on what your belief is in this case. But that is definitely something. And, what occurred to me is, if, let's say, he did fall, as a theory, that he did fall in a manhole, is it possible that, the phone got wet and just went?
Right.
Yeah.
If it was a quick drop where he, that's why I was bringing up the New York guy that I knew that fell through that. When he fell, he was like, it was so fast. When I woke up from the coma, he didn't even remember the event happening. Like, he just remembered walking down the sidewalk. Next thing he knew, he was in a hospital. So if he did take a quick drop, it could be super fast before you even know what's happening, maybe. But I don't know.
And then Richard also said, and that is true with the Michael Monkey Vaughn case, they never outright cleared the parents until recently. So, and that's been going on for quite a while. And then also the Real Me Too says you can use a built-in location feature on an Android or iOS to find a dead phone. Well, I need to learn how to do that, because we have dead phones in this house constantly, and we're constantly fighting over chargers. So, yeah,
people steal the chargers here. That's the big crime that happens in this house. It's stolen chargers.
And some guy that keeps buying chargers and packs for your kids every holiday, Christmas, and birthday. So I know you
That's
have
true.
them.
Well,
Yeah,
we do
they're
have
here.
a child with autism who tends to bend the cords quite a bit, and the
it
cords are
bends.
not made for that kind of wear and tear, I'm afraid. So that happens quite a bit. But I will tell you, Auntie, that we just this week, even though I know that you just loaded them up with chargers, and we still had a big argument about chargers this week. So
Not surprised. Not surprised.
yeah. Let's see. Oh, and so since we have a moment, again, I would like to point out that we have our wonderful Olivia B here and some of our members. Olivia B has her own channel, and she is looking for subscribers. So Olivia is wonderful, and I am sure that her channel is going to be amazing. And I want to recognize our members. We've got Wine Time here. We had Karen here. We had a few different members. Sue was here at one point. The Real Me Too is here. And let's see. Let's see. What is her channel called? It's Olivia B, I believe. Olivia, can you put that in the chat? Yeah.
Yes. She'll post a link in the chat.
So I think where are we at with this discovery at this point? Have they said one way or the other if the dental if the dental records are a possibility?
I think it is a possibility. I did hear them say that those kinds of things can usually be done quicker than other forms of DNA, especially with a decomposed body. But I still think if they'll take the full 6 weeks, they may let the family know if the dental match is very likely. But that was something that they said it may even be able to make a match with the clothing if they could show pictures of his clothing that he had on versus what the remains had on. There were some clothing, so they may be able to tell something from that faster. But I think they will still not come out with an official word until they have done the DNA testing, which will probably take the full 6 weeks.
Well, the clothing, if they, because I think he was wearing what they say, teal pants or something like that. So something pretty distinctive. If that's what it is, and that would be very, that would give us look pretty good. I can't believe that the clothing is intact, but that's great if that's the case.
I will say too, with this, the law enforcement has been very transparent with this case.
They have.
They have kept the community involved and informed, and it's kind of almost a model the way they've worked with the parents. It's just
seems like the way it should be done.
Exactly, it seems like the way it should be done.
Maybe there's a reason it doesn't always go this way, but they've kept the dad Randy pretty informed, but they've also not been revealing everything in the world where we know, they'll tell you they're analyzing the phone, but they're not going to tell you exactly what they found, which is completely understandable, but that we don't need to know everything about what they found on this kid's phone. I would, but yeah, they've been very good about communicating as things have developed there. Wish they would do that in some other cases.
So did the Nashville police with the Riley Strain case. It was communicated constantly until the body was found, and they were updating constantly. Unlike the Sebastian Rogers case, where it has been hush hush and very little information. So I mean, you can really see the differences in different police departments in different places and how it's handled. It's completely. But I think the Corpus Christi police have done a great job with it.
Richard says, or
what?
So Richard says dental is very, very fast unless something is wrong with dental, then DNA. Yeah.
Well, that's what makes you wonder, like when they say that almost the entire body was intact.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where it kind of gets a little gruesome to me.
Yeah. So,
and we really don't know what that means. Yeah. But I will tell you, if it's no sign of homicide, it means that's probably a good indication that it was pretty much all there. So I would think if something major was not there, it would possibly indicate homicide. Does that make sense?
Yes. I mean, anything.
Well, I
Yes.
think
So I
though,
would think like if there were bullets and that type of thing involved, then that would all be apparent. I just don't know. There are other ways that he could have passed it. Maybe on the surface wouldn't be as obvious, but I would think like stab wounds, bullets, things like that would be what they were talking about. It's awful, but so I don't know. So how did he get there where he was?
this is a good point. Yeah. It's a tragedy when anybody passes, and it's terrible when people go missing.
Yeah.
It's hard. I have to tell you, I personally got researching for this and kind of gathering pictures and things. I told him yesterday, I started crying because that kid had his, we don't know that that's him. We don't know that he's gone, but he has his whole life ahead of him. And it's just, it's terrifying and it's sad. And I'm going to cry right now thinking about it.
That's the same thing like with Riley. It was the same thing. It's just, it's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. And you hate to see anything happen. I think that's why we've become so passionate about crimes against children or young adults, because, we have children or had children and can see how difficult that is for families. And, you see it in multiple ways, multiple times. And Richard said the best years of their lives. It's very sad. And it is the best years, but it's also, gosh, the most vulnerable time with them. And it's just,
and you don't think about that as a parent. You're so worried about getting them to that point to where they are a young adult.
Yeah,
you're so worried about that. I had
you never stop worrying. You never stop worrying.
Oh, I agree. I had to talk with Middle E, as I call him.
Yeah.
And I said, my job from the moment you are in my belly is to keep you alive. And it's really hard to stop trying to keep you alive. That's not something I can break. That's not a habit I can break.
And my son, who's 28, knows all too well. I do the same thing to him, and he's 28 and he's married, and but that doesn't stop. It never stops. And you try to give him a little more rope, but you still care and worry about their safety each and every day. Okay. So it doesn't really matter if your child's 30 years old or 12 years old.
Right.
Yeah. Brian Koberger hearing is starting any minute. Hopefully we get a trial date. What is this case? I don't know what this one is.
Oh, that is the.
Is this the
4?
19?
Isn't that the?
I don't know.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure it's the Idaho 4.
Is that what that is? I didn't remember.
Yeah, it was just right there on your screen, and you closed it.
I see.
Yes, that's the Idaho murders. Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you that we've had tunnel vision on the Sebastian Rogers case, and also this one, again, like you said, that we are, get very close to ones that are young people, and this is young people as well. The mysteries of what happened to people, I think, is what kind of draws us in. Foul play, things like that. Let's see. Oh,
yeah. As far as sending condolences, I just want to, it's. I think one of the things that's going to be so hard on like Caleb Harris is if this ends up being him or not or whatever it is. I think it was a more hopeful situation in a lot of ways.
Sorry, I'm smiling about something
still
else.
Be out there because there weren't really signs of foul play. They truly didn't. It just seemed like he vanished. Like there weren't signs or. It's not like he had these suspects with motives or anything like that going on. He just was gone. And so it was terrifying. It was really hard to know. The possibility of him being alive and abducted somewhere was not out of the realm of possibility. And you never know what's going on with someone where they might, who knows? He could have taken off for any, we don't know this person. We don't know he could have just decided to start a new life and walk away. And, we didn't know. So there was kind of, there's hope with Caleb. And so when you go back and you read those pages too of the people that have been really emotionally invested in Caleb, they're devastated.
And I will say, you know, you were saying this just yesterday, that those pages are, you know, we thought that some of the cases we've been following, Sebastian, had a lot of ugly things being said in their groups. Well, I'm not sure that the Caleb Harris group that we've gone to is any better.
I think it's worse.
You do?
Yeah. I think the rumors are worse in the Caleb story. The speculation's just all over the place, and there's like no limit to what
people will say.
They'll throw out there in their rumor. Not that there's
someone put up a
lot.
picture that they're claiming was the body, right?
Yes.
They took it down.
They took it down.
But man,
I mean, it's all over the place. So
it's awful. And I actually want to do a personal shout out to Maui Girl and tell her that we are so very sorry that the other day that you accidentally got blocked.
It was nothing personal.
It was nothing personal. We truly appreciate you. And we actually went to other chats searching for you so that we could let you know that we love you and that that was an absolute accident. The chat was just going very fast.
I'm curious, did you think you did something wrong? Were you kind of wondering what happened there? Because
we were
really
devastated
about it because we're getting to know a lot of the folks that chat with us and kind of look forward to their thoughts on different things. And but yeah, I think I think we had the chat moving pretty fast and they just accidentally clicked your name and it was just an accident. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, our apologies for that. But
thank you, Olivia, for finding her and letting her know.
Yes, Olivia, thank you for doing that. And I get it. I mean, it's easy to do that pretty fast sometimes.
And we are going to be branching out even more. It takes us a little bit longer because we try to get all the facts for the case and not do hearsay as much. We will talk theories and speculations, but we try not to, go crazy. So if there are any other cases that you guys are interested in, please let us know. I was telling him earlier, there's a little girl in Atlanta area that I believe there's a $50,000 reward for that I would like to look into, but there's really not a lot of information out there about it.
Right.
And then there's also a young lady in Oklahoma City that is also missing, and it's very suspicious circumstances as well. That's a Stephanie Rodriguez, I believe.
I know that.
And there's some really suspicious circumstances there too, because the family, they were on their way to the beach, staying over in their house that they apparently had two houses, one in Arkansas and one in Oklahoma City. And so they were staying over for the night, and the camera footage shows her trying to charge her phone and then kicking off her shoes. And that's the last anybody saw her.
Right. The shoes things.
Yeah, the shoes.
There's a theme to all of these stories. So we'll every time we do a new story, we're going to follow that story as long as we are allowed to be here and are doing this. So this is one that we had personally been very interested in and following. I think because of the timing around Sebastian Rogers and the missing shoes, it just caught our attention then. And we're like, wow, what is this with the shoes thing? And of course, it's a very different story in a lot of ways, but it also, there's a lot of comparisons you can make between the two. Like we were saying, the way a family, you would expect them to act, that and the way that other families have chosen to act are very different. And so it was, Sebastian Rogers is always going to be kind of our touchstone for every true crime story we do, probably. We'll always be kind of comparing it to every story we cover.
It's hard not to, though, when you see, you see the way certain things take place in one case versus another.
Yeah.
And
Richard said he had a friend go missing in 2013, and law enforcement thought she wanted to start a new life until years went by and nothing. Now it's foul play. And that often happens with these types of cases as well, especially adults they just think have gone missing to start a new life, or are missing because they left with someone, left a partner they didn't want to be with or whatever, and then it suddenly after years and years goes into a foul play situation. I think with Sebastian Rogers, we could be looking at a foul play thing come out eventually about that, as we've all speculated in previous broadcasts that we've done, but that's a situation where it definitely could change over time.
Richard, this is a chilling quote. You know what a murderer once said around here: when you go missing, they'll only find your shoes.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Well, on a different note,
Okay.
um,
Mystery, I wouldn't think anyone would get the reward because the storm brought him up. And yeah.
well, and we don't know that it's Caleb. We cannot say that because there are other missing people in the area. At least,
There's a few, a half dozen or so.
Men.
That's what's odd is the ones that are missing, and they've been for a little bit longer ago. They've been missing for a while.
Yeah, and sometimes those things are simple as people being too close to water and falling off bridges and things like that, and they're innocent, but sometimes not. And we don't know what all these people.
And I'll tell you, in a lot of these things, I think that's what's so eerie about it is when people don't get found right away. Usually I believe they say the first 72 hours are the most important, time to get that information out.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone goes missing and they're gone, longer than that, obviously people's mind automatically goes to foul play.
Yeah, you see that with a lot of the runaways. They're usually found within about 3 days. Usually within 3 days or so, they can track down what friend they're with or who they're with. Even ones that have gone with online people or have met up with online people, they can find them pretty quickly. It's usually about a 3-4 day window until you hear something. So some of these cases that I have wanted to start suggesting, hey, let's follow this one, and then the next day they turn up. We just haven't, that happens.
Yeah, because that's the way it usually goes, and that's great that most of these some have looked really scary to us for a few minutes, and then it's then okay.
Well, I mean, oftentimes, realistically, a lot of times they're runaways. A lot of times they're that poor kid that I was, or not poor kid. Well, he was found, but what I mean is that it was a custodial situation. But I just wore down their police. I wore down their constable until they finally gave more information and found him, because I got the #1 fan on his site, because
I don't think he felt that way.
No, they kept deleting everything I would put up there, but I would say, what information do you have about this child? And I was saying to him, oftentimes minorities are overlooked in these situations and do not get a lot of coverage. This young girl in Atlanta, this young girl in Oklahoma are not getting the coverage they need. So maybe we need to start looking into those and just try to use this platform to help get the word out about these young ladies. And I think the one in Atlanta, the unfortunate thing is that her father does not speak English. And I think there's been some communication barriers, and the news people are kind of shying away from it. That's what it looks like.
We had talked about this a little bit before, but when as many of you know, we have our son with autism. One of the things they tell you right away when you're getting into these programs and things is you're your child's best advocate when you have a special needs child. And at first I didn't really understand what that meant. So I was like, well, why should I be the best advocate? I don't know anything about this disease. This is all news to me. You are all the experts, the people in the psychiatry and all these things. But then you learn that actually is true, because if you're not the one out there fighting for your kid, nobody else is going to. So if they're going to get services and therapies and all these things they might need, you have to be the one driving that, because nobody's going to give you services just because, or whatever. So it's made me think that this is the same thing when a child goes missing. The parent has to be the one driving the bus and has to be the best advocate for the child, because if you're not the one annoying the heck out of the police calling, and you're not the one calling the news stations saying what's going on, telling the story, holding the vigils, putting up the signs, printing this, doing all these things, then the story just fades away. I mean, there's so many of these where, you don't know a thing about them. There's people that go missing all the time, and there's not a blip in the local news about it, unless they've got an advocate, and that you have. So that's.
And what we were also discussing that the prayer vigil, I did not realize this until Sebastian, is that there's actually charities that set up prayer vigils for missing persons. And they do that in order to gain awareness in the community. They do it to gain awareness from media, and they do it to also kind of put pressure on the police department. And also to pray for the person. But that is kind of, I didn't know that there were organizations that actually did that, which I mean, it's great. It's great. It's wonderful that they do it, but I did not realize that until Sebastian.
Right. I just thought, oh, okay, they're having a vigil.
Right.
They're going to get together and pray.
Right.
But there's a strategy behind it also. And that makes a lot of sense because it does get the media attention. Because reporters need things they can, like, especially TV reporters, they need something they can film and put out there.
Right.
And so a vigil is a great visual medium to show community support and revive a story. There's also stories of parents where family members, siblings, or whatever, somebody has been lost their, died, unsolved murders, and then they've gone on to create their own podcast and got those crimes solved that way because it got the story revived. Doing things like that. So it's like that's why the parents are critical when something like this happens, and when the parents don't act properly. That's part of why it raises suspicion. But Randy, if this ends up being Caleb, is going to break everybody's heart, for him, because everybody's seen just how great he's been. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the Nancy Grace interview or any of the others he's done. He's shown so much strength and just kind of dad you hope you have if you were down or in a bad spot like that. He's doing everything he can. I know they're still kind of staying hopeful, but
that's interesting.
I don't know. Well, hopefully they'll have answers one way or the other, because even this waiting has got to be
excruciating.
So if it ends up being Caleb, hopefully they'll be able to identify him here in a couple of days.
Turtle madness.
They find a lot of missing bodies buried in the dunes.
What dunes? In the dunes of the sand, like at the beach?
I think he means in that Corpus Christi area, maybe.
Oh, okay. And then Charlene has a good point.
Charlene, it has to be awful when a loved one goes missing, never to be seen again. The agony of never stop looking, every go or someone that reminds you of them. It's sad. I think it's a living nightmare. That's what it would have to be. I don't know how.
I do have.
I know. I've heard parents talk years after something like this happened. It's just a never-ending state of mourning.
There is another missing person case that I came across today. This is Emily Conger, and she was last seen in Sigourney. You think that's right?
Yes.
Sigourney, like Sigourney Weaver, probably.
Yeah.
Like that.
Iowa, on June 22nd, 16 years old. Last seen around 1 p.m. on Saturday. She left her home to go for a walk. A random text from a burner phone unknown to the family was received stating lost track of time at a friend's house. Her family has reached out to her friends and no one was able to figure out where she is. She does not have her phone and hasn't been seen since.
Wow.
16 years old.
That's a weird case.
Yeah, that's not,
Not good.
that's not good. And she's 16 years old, 5'2", 110 pounds. So if you guys could share this around, see if we can help.
Well, the burner phone, they say that just having a burner phone doesn't necessarily give you anonymity. There's ways that they can sometimes track these through where they were purchased and that type of thing.
Right.
And pull footage that way. So they're not quite as anonymous necessarily as you might think. So hopefully that will be something they can track down with the 22nd. So we're 4 days out. So that she's in danger.
Yeah.
Keokuk County.
Keokuk. I don't know how to. That's a very interesting name.
Yeah, it is. 5'2", 110 pounds.
Yeah.
Went for a walk.
Just went for a walk though, without her phone.
Yeah.
And you
We
know,
might look into this.
Yeah.
Is,
well, I shared
there's
it.
a lot of
I shared it
there's
on
a
our
lot.
Facebook and on our
Yeah.
and on our community page today because you know,
It's hard. You can't focus all of your attention on everything. So
Right.
you kind of have to just
pick and choose.
one story at a time to make sure, if we're going to try to present, because we want to make sure that,
Well-
like the Caleb thing, we could have done a couple of weeks ago. We've been thinking about.
We've been
doing it.
talking about it for a while.
It just takes a while. Like I don't ever want to come out and be wrong on the timeline or get that kind of thing wrong. So we just wanted to make sure we had it buttoned up.
And then
before.
this happened. We had already
Yeah.
planned on doing this prior to that. So
Yeah. So
there was something else I wanted to say
about this girl.
about. No, it was about the Caleb thing. And we are going to continue our coverage about Sebastian. We know people have emailed us and texted us and all kinds of fun stuff to let us know about the development last night with the person being extradited
Yes.
to Sumner County. We are aware of it, or not. Well, it's the Hendersonville Police Department.
Yes.
Is extraditing a person that has done a lot of monstrous things.
Yeah.
19-year-old.
Probably next time we come on and
Yeah.
stream, we're going to kind of get back into updates on Sebastian, and then.
But we don't know that has anything to do with Sebastian. But it is something that is happening in the area.
Oh no! But there's other things that have been happening. We just and I'm sure the way that story is,
Right.
there's something every day anyhow. So by the time we stream again, it'll be quite a bit to talk about because there already kind of is. We had thought about even doing enough, but
Yeah, I
but
think
we might wait a couple of days and then come back and cover the newer things with Sebastian. There are definitely going to be things to discuss.
But-
and fortunately, they got this guy, this 19-year-old in Illinois, I think is where he was.
we're gonna
So we'll
we'll
go into
we'll
that,
get
and
more
then-
information about that because I mean there's nothing out now except he's being extradited.
but we'll probably learn a little more about him over the next couple of days anyway. So that'll give us some time to kind of gather some information on him, whether or not he's tied to Sebastian or not. It's what
Well, you already know my thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is a monster. Appears accused allegedly, if he's done what it seems like he's been doing. So we'll dig on this guy a little bit. It looks like he's coming here
So
to face some justice. So.
and if anybody in the chat would like to have any cases they want us to highlight or talk about, I would, we would love the suggestions. We want to get awareness out for as many people as we can and try to help in any way we can. Wine Time says 20 counts. So yeah, it's terrible.
Well, okay, I didn't know the number.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be reading up on this guy and seeing what's going on. I'm assuming he'll face a hearing here in the next day or two. If he hasn't already.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's just some other developments here and there with Sebastian's case that
Yeah.
we'll discuss also. And like we said, we can't get too far from the Sebastian story without wanting to get back and talk about it anyway.
Well, it's just it's the whole reason we started doing this, and it's very near and dear to our heart, and we want him home, and just like we want everybody home, we don't want anybody to be missing a loved one.
And Caleb will continue to follow this story, of course, any developments that come out of it. I'm sure we'll all hear probably at the same time when they know something.
Wine Time says Summerwells and Holly Bobo. Yeah. Amia Tucker. Well, yeah, that's actually not too far from us either. That's in Ohio County, which is in Kentucky.
We will probably actually, if we
That's such a sad story too.
over the next couple of months, we'll probably end up doing all of the ones you just mentioned.
Yeah, we're going to be doing some different formats. We're going to try to do some standalone videos that are not necessarily live chats. We're going to be doing some other stuff.
Because I was thinking, because the reason we were thinking of doing the videos is we thought, if we're having
Aurora
a discussion
Beth.
about, say, Sebastian, there's new people that are finding the story that may like to hear kind of like a 15-minute kind of little video, kind of get caught up on where this story is at.
All the facts.
Kind of like we did with the beginning here of Caleb, and kind of put that to the side as a video because, the folks here that we're familiar with we all know this story backward and forward, but there are people every day that learn about the Sebastian story for the first time or have recently become interested in it, and want to kind of give them a way to kind of get caught up on the facts of it if they want to join us for the live chats also. So that's kind of the thinking. We'll just kind of keep working on making ourselves better here as a channel is the goal too, improving things as much as we can.
I'll tell you the fellow too that I think it's Jay Slater, but he was in Spain. That story, if you guys haven't looked into that at all, that's a really interesting story, but it seems very convoluted and complicated.
If you're into statement analysis, I enjoy that perspective. Peter High is doing some good stuff on that story right now.
Right.
It's very interesting.
The Real Me Too says, you never know when someone watching will come forward with information.
Yeah.
And exactly. That we were actually talking about that ourselves. Like, what if somebody saw something going down?
Yeah. Avondale Mama says, just joining late, had to make a big pot of spaghetti.
Well, I wish you were making that for us. That would be amazing.
Sounds awesome.
But
that might be what we have for lunch. Might be what we'll do too.
Wait, didn't we just have that for dinner?
Yeah, ravioli.
Oh,
Might
yeah.
look the
There's
same.
some spinach-filled raviolis that are amazing. Where were they from? Costco?
Those were Sam's.
Oh, okay. They were really good. But he wanted to put them with a pesto sauce, and I'm not a huge fan of the pesto sauce. But he and little E like the pesto, and middle E and me like the red sauce, and then our old E won't eat any of it. So.
Just plain noodles maybe would be about all.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. And thank you for joining us. We appreciate all of you very much. And we hope you'll come back and see us soon.
Auntie, you got anything before we go?
I don't think so. I'm glad that we started summarizing this case, because I've really liked, or not liked, but have been interested in this Caleb Harris case. It's been one that's really kept me up at night thinking and reading about. So I think it's a good one to discuss, as well as the Sebastian Rogers case, which, as you said, is near and dear to our hearts, and we just want to have some resolution for that young man.
Yeah, I don't even know what to hope for as far as resolution. You don't want it to be this, but it's somebody. So it's terrible no matter what the situation.
Oh, you're talking about Caleb.
Yeah, about Caleb. I don't know what the resolution. Someone's having resolution, I suppose. And you don't even know what to hope for. I guess you just hope that peace for everyone as much as possible, and healing for whichever family's about to get some awful news. And but we'll be following that, of course. If there's any news about this clothing or dental records, anything like that, we'll talk about that, of course, the next time we come on. We'll since we have covered the story, our plan is we'll keep up to date on this, and we will relay anything new that comes along whenever we do these streams, and discuss that in conjunction with Sebastian.
The Real Me Too says, thank you for your time and advocating for the missing. And thank you from Charlene. Aw.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, God bless you too. That's really sweet. And then Wine Time, my buddy. Thank you. Great job. We appreciate you.
Another great handle. We've got some great handles.
And hey, Richard, thanks for the great conversation today.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed having you in chat. You really had some.
You added a lot.
Things.
Yes.
Yes, you did.
You did.
And also, wherever Turtle is, Turtle Madness. I love your name. I think I know where that comes
Turtle
from.
Madness has been here before, I think. Right?
Yes.
Yes, I think I remember.
Oh, and Sharon. Hi, Sharon. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And and Anne, thank you. Oh, you guys are so sweet. I just appreciate you guys so much. You do my heart good. I need people like you in my life. So in our lives.
We'll probably be back sometime this weekend. We kind of have to just coordinate our schedules. Our lives are always a little.
We don't really have.
unpredictable.
Yeah, we're
We
unpredictable.
kind of just have to do it when we think we can, but probably this weekend.
And
will
we
be our
couldn't do it
next time.
tonight, so we thought we would go ahead.
Try the 10 o'clock time and see where for us anyway.
Richard says his handle isn't it.
Well, that name is an adventure. That last name. So it's excited that way. So Ashley Rain, there is some connection between predators and victims losing access to phones and communication. Sebastian, no phone. Caleb, phone died. Emily, no phone.
Right.
The predator is a common denominator. Clearly that.
Wow. That's
Very-
really great. That's really great insight there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if you're thinking like a predator, the first thing they have to consider is the phone and how they're going to work around. You know, it's a terrible way to think, but that's probably how they think. They think, okay, how am I going to deal with the phones? And there's Big Brother's everywhere. Everything we do is logged.
I miss the days. I miss the days when people couldn't reach me whenever they want to. And I've been trying to do a good job of saying, okay, I will answer texts at this time, or I'll answer emails at this time.
Yeah.
Because just because somebody wants to reach me does not mean I'm in a position to stop everything I'm doing and talk or text them.
But you would think or hope that if you're going to sacrifice your privacy, that if one of these side benefits would be that things like this should be less likely to happen to us.
Right. That's
that
true.
If nothing else,
it's going to be all Minority Report in the future.
I know. I mean, I don't like it either, but I'm just saying if that's the way it is. At least maybe some side benefit is it can help us stay safer. But predators, like Ashley's pointing out, they're taking this into account and they're making sure they're on their burner phones or they're destroying phones, getting you away from your phone or having you put it in airplane mode. And, you know, they've got tactics because they think like predators.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't think about
saying?
that. Yeah.
They adapt like any animal. These people are animals if they're out there preying on these people. So,
I didn't mean right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up.
Not to leave on that cheery note there.
Well,
so sorry for that. But thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, we appreciate you for joining us today.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry that we're at an off time, but we appreciate you. And Aunt E, thank you as always for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. I just got a text from a really good friend who said they happen to be watching, and I appreciate you and you know who you are. And Aunt E, you know who that person is too. So, and love you and miss you, that person. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up now. And you guys have a great day. And
we'll catch you next
time. We got to come up with a catchphrase. So if anybody's got a catchphrase, put it in the comments because
somebody had a crime time one or something. Like that.
Thanks for joining us we're not crime time. We're crime cast. Oh, and thank you to Olivia B. You're the best.
Yes,
we appreciate you so
Olivia.
much.
Yeah, we'll see you all probably this weekend.
Yeah, I would say so.
Something like.
And thank you guys once again. Have a good
rest
day.
of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.